Nonprofit professionals, have you thought about using gift cards? They're especially helpful this time of year. Think holiday gifts for the whole team, year end bonuses, and even direct support to families in need around the holidays. Charity Charge has a free gift card program just for nonprofits with no sign-up fees or ordering minimums. Text or email a digital card for face value, no extra cost, or ship a physical card if you prefer. Let our team support your year end projects and save money on your gifting. Visit charitycharge.com to learn more and beat the holiday rush. Now, on to the episode. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Nonprofit Spotlight series. This is Grayson Harris, and today we are absolutely pleased to be joined by Jamie Merrill. She is both the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, the Boys and Girls Club is a recognized name for sure within the nonprofit space. But can you tell me a little bit about what makes, the region of Central Florida unique and the mission and what's driving you out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 39 clubs, which is huge and a huge organization. We support more than 13,000 youth across all of Central Florida in 5 counties. That's a big deal, ranging from kindergarten all the way up through, graduation of high school and in an alumni network. We have some of the greatest partners around that come in and spend time with our youth. Workforce development, mental health, academic success. We have some of the strongest metrics around, not only just in the Boys and Girls Club network, but also as a partner to the school systems to lift literacy scores, math scores, and really make sure that kids are set up for success. One of the things that we love to say is that we break the cycle of generational poverty, but really, in all honesty, we break the cycle of everything because every child needs our support, and we're just thankful to be part of the village.
I love that. I appreciate that context. One of my favorite questions to kind of start something off like this is with these, 39 different clubs, and I think you mentioned 5 different counties. There is a lot, going into that and kind of managing all these different programs that y'all are running, and all of them, have different goals probably in mind. How are you defining success within your position and, kind of keeping all of this moving towards one goal in mind?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think just success is defined in so many different ways, and you can define it individually inside of very specific programs. You can define success inside of, board and board leadership. But, when I look at several metrics personally. I'm looking at the number of youth that we're serving in all ages. I'm looking at the number of youth retained year over year, especially in middle school and transitionary schools when people and kids are going from elementary into middle school and middle school into high school, and the number of kids that we're retaining as they're transitioning into new environments, making sure that they have a stable setting at the club to be able to keep them well
Mhm.
grounded, making sure that they're having good decisions. I'm defining success not only in the number of kids that we're serving, but also in the way that they define success. So I run a teen advisory council, and this gives me an opportunity personally to constantly stay abreast of what the kids are looking at as a successful club, what they want. We know that we want to help them with academics and athletics and healthy lifestyles and mental health. But we also want them to come back because no child wants to have a truly structured type of setting in an after school setting. So I like to always say we have some of the greatest structured, unstructured that the kids don't always know is fully structured that keeps them wanting to come back. So, what programs are they interested in? AI. And are we creating new innovative approaches and new programs? I'm looking at success as bringing new individuals into the mission raised, but also new partnerships that we're creating that gives our children even more opportunities to be successful and have career growth opportunities in the future. So lots of different ways that I define success in every different avenue, but those are just a few.
Love that. You mentioned this teen council. I'd love to speak a little bit more on that. I think it's so important to, have a seat at the table for the constituents that, nonprofits serve. Is there a story or something you could share of having that teen council and having those conversations with kind of the youth of your area that, led to a new program or a service that you didn't know was, really important for them? And some type of success story from that.
Absolutely, and I can give you 2 really quick
Yeah.
examples. So in the about 3 months ago, we spent time on the Teen Advisory Council, and I have teens from all ages, 13 all the way up to 18, all of our counties represented, so I have about 15 teens that serve on this council with me, and we spent time talking about workforce development and career exploration. So we call it Workforce Wednesdays, and they love it. It's one of the things that they love the most because they have an opportunity to see new careers. So when I started specifically going down the road of what do you want to see more careers, I was a little surprised. And a resounding number, in fact, all of them across all counties wanted to spend a little bit more time in healthcare. And more specifically, outside of nursing and physicians, they wanted to learn more about EMTs. They wanted to learn more about pharmacy technicians. They wanted to learn more about medical coding, bringing people in these careers into the clubs to speak with them on a regular basis. So that's one example that helps us to build out the curriculum for the next year of what careers they potentially want to see. Of course, we fill in some of the gaps, but that was a great example. The other most recently was we spent an entire afternoon talking about AI and what new curriculum that they want to build out and we want to build out both for our staff as well as the teens and how we can start looking at the right curriculum to get them excited about where their careers are going to go with using AI as a support tool.
That and it's so interesting whenever you look at the overall workforce landscape and the two kind of main themes that y'all are speaking to are actually two of the few industries that are having job growth. So it's almost interesting
Right.
how that the interest is also aligning with where the potential opportunity is as well in terms of that workforce development. So I'm sure that worked out pretty well in terms of what y'all are excited about at the organization.
It does. And staying aware of what they want is a huge component to us continuing to see our teen population grow because they're going to go back and they are going to tell their friends. We want to not only serve our youth, but 100% of our high school seniors graduate. Which is better than the school systems that are out there, right? So we know that when success happens, it's when the teens stay with us all of those years as well. So we have to stay aware of what they want to see and grow. Yes, it's the basketball gyms and it's athletic programs. And yes, it's,
Fun stuff.
the digital sound studios that we have and the art programs and the dance and the podcast and all the things that they have that's cool. And also though, what do they need to develop excitement about so that they can move it forward?
I thank you so much for sharing all of that, and I'd like to narrow in a little bit more on your background here. I've been in this role for a little longer than 2 years, and you have this great experience coming in kind of from the business world, and I believe this is your first foray as an executive of a nonprofit. Is that correct?
In the nonprofit world, yes. I came from being chief operating officer and spent 18 years in the senior living and healthcare space.
That's amazing. Can you speak a little bit more to how it was kind of stepping in and transitioning to working within the nonprofit space?
Yeah, I think nonprofits and for profits, there's a lot of similarities and there's also a lot of differences, right? When you look at running a business and you treat it like a business, you have, similar type, business mindset in financials and team development goals. Believe it or not, in the healthcare space, senior living, and also youth serving, there was a lot of similarities in regulations, licensure, training requirements, things that most people wouldn't recognize as similarities because you have two vulnerable types of populations. So many of those regulations were the same and they crossed over for me. Leading large teams was something I was incredibly used to, and I found a love for leadership development and always giving back. I think where you see the differences in such a positive way is, my goodness, the heart and the
Mm.
mission and why people get involved. You have people that are not only donating professionally, but personally donating. So they are so much more invested in your mission and the lives that you're touching and growing on a daily basis. Board leadership and management is different than serving on a board. It is different, but you want to have a successful board that you can bring alongside of you. So being able to use all of your leadership skills to make sure that your board is side by side because they're going to carry the mission forward. They're going to carry the message forward. They are an extension of you. And when you use it that way, it makes life a lot easier and you can get so much more accomplished.
I'd like to focus in on that board relationship a little bit here. In these, over 2 years, I'm sure you've also learned how to manage that relationship over that period of time. Is there a piece of advice or a lesson that you give yourself as you kind of entered into this position as the president and CEO in that board relationship and management to kind of carry you forward?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you about a couple of things that I did, and partly because I had the experience coming in and I knew that I needed to do this. When I first came in, I did one thing, which was get to all my clubs as fast as I could. So I got to 40 clubs in 2 months, less than 2 months, and I spent time with every staff and all the kids. And that was incredibly impactful internally to the mission. And what it did is it showed my staff, it showed my board, it showed the community what was most important to me, which was taking care of my staff who were taking care of the kids. And then from there, I went to start having individual meetings with all of my board members and really get to know them, understand their reason why they're a part of this so that I could develop a personal relationship. And when I needed to tap on them and ask for help, they were going to be there to support me. So I would say that one thing that I did within the first year, and I was really thankful to have incredible board leadership who supported it, was I recognized very quickly that we had all of these incredible executives with all different kinds of industry experience who were coming into the boardroom, and all we were doing was talking at them and giving report outs. And we were not using and utilizing the incredible expertise that they had in the room. And as a board member, personally, I want to be used and I want to be seen as valuable. So we changed up the way that we were doing our board meetings and created more opportunities for focus groups. Yes, we have committees on the off months, but we used it in focus groups in our actual board meeting to get feedback and guidance on strategy so that they had a component of helping us to move the needle forward. And then we can continue to move the needle through our committees, but resounding success from all the board members that they feel so much more valuable when they're able to give expert advice to us and help to guide the organization forward.
Do you have an example or a story that you can share as you've had this kind of transition and shift to bringing that expertise to the table of where a board member's expertise was able to get something done or unlock a creative solution for the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a few of examples of that, but I'll just say this. We recently brought in a new board member, and I often will ask them before we put you on a committee, let's go through maybe 2 board meetings. I'll spend a little personal time with you. I'll get you into the club and we'll get you engaged so that you can find, is your passion more youth or teens? Is it more IT specific, software specific, art specific? Like, what does that look like? Because people will often want to donate time and resources, but if it isn't something that fills their cup or they're overexerting themselves, it isn't sustainable. And so I want to make sure that our organization is both giving and receiving, and not always just the receiver, but we're filling everybody else's cup as a part of it. And so we went through an exercise of not only just committees in the boardroom, but kind of who do you know, what do you know, and what are we working on in a strategic plan. And we broke out into small groups and we talked about what we feel is most valuable in some of these areas, but what do you see externally that we could do a little bit better, whether it's marketing, whether it's, and brand management, whether it's teen growth, whether it's athletics or all of these different areas that will lead us into the future of being future ready, whether it's, technology, system wise, board, things like that. And so as we broke into these small groups and focus groups, the incredible engagement in the room was, I mean, it was just on fire. People were so excited to be able to talk about this. And what happened from there was we ended up with people changing committees on how they wanted to see in the next year going forward because they were so excited about the focus group that they were in. And so all of these new board members had an opportunity to dip their toe into some of these different areas on our strategic plan. And my leaders, C-suite leaders that are leading critical departments, had an opportunity to now have committee leaders that were invested in the success of where the next year takes us and are part of creating bigger, better things. Marketing committee is a great example where they're able to provide their insight and offer their teams suggestions and resources to help the Boys and Girls Club, which is even better.
I love that, and I think it shares the importance of aligning like the values of your board members with like what the needs are of the organization, and where creativity can really kind of be fostered in that. Another thing I love to ask is that it's within the nonprofit space. Whenever an opportunity comes on our plate, it's really hard sometimes to determine whether or not that's aligned with the mission and value of the organization is, and also say no. What framework or process do you have for identifying whether an opportunity is a good fit for the organization and whether to pursue that, or maybe instead, you know, use a collaboration or an effort like that with someone else in the community?
Mission creep is a real thing. And I think more and more we're seeing in the nonprofit space, and not even just with Boys and Girls Club, but we're seeing just as an industry in nonprofits that happen. And the reason I think some of it is happening is because you have some of these high level donors and the transfer of wealth that is happening. And people are becoming more educated on what is actually occurring, and they're no longer wanting to just kind of generally give without impact reports. They want to give to a very specific cause, something that fills their cup. And so they will often try to link that to an organization, which doesn't always link, right? Here is a great scenario of this. We serve youth. Um, we serve the youth really well in all the different areas. And I'll give you two examples. Mental health is a huge, huge pillar of ours. And at one point, we started walking down the road of employing mental health counselors as a part of a grant. And that was great because it was helping our kids. But very quickly, we started realizing that it was opening us up for HIPAA compliance and healthcare documentation. And it started becoming a little bit of mission creep. And so what we did was we took those dollars that we had and we went back to the funder and we said, we don't want to be an expert in something we're not an expert in. Like, we're experts in youth, but we don't have to be an expert in mental health. Can we use these dollars to go to a partner who is an expert in mental health? And we identified core partners by program pillar to align with us so that they could take some of the burden and also serve our incredible youth without it being mission creep and eating up all the resources. Another example of that is often we'll find, because of the youth that we serve, families that significantly need our help. And our mission is youth, and our resources have to go to providing safe spaces. As much as we want to be able to help and support the families that are dire straits and having difficulty at that time, it would eat up the resources for the youth that we serve and not be able to provide the same situation. So we will often refer those families to United Against Poverty or other incredible organizations who have case managers who can support them, knowing that their kids have a safe place in our clubs and they can help to support them doing other things so that it doesn't utilize too many of our staff hours or resources and we don't find that mission creep.
I think those are both great examples, especially that first one. I think also speaks to those, those funders' dollars. They're also going to make a larger impact whenever you partner with an organization like that, because that is what they do, right? They're going to be more efficient. They're going to have the services already in place, the overhead, it's going to fit into that, scope of their work a lot better. What would be a piece of advice for, nonprofit leaders to foster that collaboration? Because what I think can also happen is they're looking at that funding and they're like, we need this for our organization to support our mission. So I think that's really where that challenge can come from mentally, or how are you framing that to also to people within your organization that are like, well, we want that funding to stay in house.
This is definitely something that has been a competitive fight in the nonprofit world, and I see it all the time, right? Really, and I foster this communication with everybody, and I will tell you, collaboration is one of my personal core pillars to make sure that's out there. But one of the things that I've led the charge in saying is the community wins when we partner together. And we don't need to fight over the dollars if the community is winning, if the kids are winning. As long as the services are being provided to the youth that we serve in the way that we need it, we can go after dollars somewhere else. Or maybe we do co-sponsorship grants. The other thing that we're starting to see is larger donors and funders are wanting to fund collaboration partnerships because they then have an opportunity to be part of both organizations and the impact that we're creating for the greater good. But I'm not one that wants to fight over all of that as long as the end result is our kids and our youth get the services that they need. That's all that matters to me. We'll find something else somewhere else.
Thank you so much. And as we look to the end of the year, I know this has been a busy week for you. I think over 5 events. What is going on
Yes.
at your organization, and what does next year look like?
Sure, absolutely. So we currently have an end of year giving campaign, which is amazing and probably one of the cutest campaigns I've ever seen. It is an adorable child dressed up in a Santa costume and has written a Dear Santa letter of I want for Christmas is a gift I won't outgrow. It's a safe place to call a home away from home, which is the club. And so we have a great end of year, campaign going on. We have a ton of events where we're partnered with other individuals to help everybody see what's happening. Our end of year gift campaign is incredible. So we have 13,000 children. We make sure that every single one has a present to unwrap underneath a tree and they get something from us. So we are partnered with all of our wonderful organizations to adopt and sponsor an entire club, which is hundreds and hundreds of children. So, whether it's Orlando Health or Nemours or Disney or Universal or all of these different incredible organizations who come behind Darden to sponsor our wonderful clubs and make sure that our children have the best end of year possible. What's on the horizon for next year is more kids served. We're currently in a building campaign to open and build a new club in Winter Garden. We opened 2 new clubs this past year. We are excited to get even more into the school systems and run some of the after school programs to help to lift the literacy and math scores a little bit more. We're focused a little bit more on competitive athletics, which is going to be really fun to do. And I'm excited about not only competitions within our own organization, but then also those other boys and girls clubs across the state of Florida that we can have some competitive, basketball tournaments and soccer tournaments with, and football and all the great things. So lots of good stuff on the horizon for us.
Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing more about your perspective in being a strong leader within the nonprofit space, and also the incredible work that you're doing for the youth of Central Florida. Thank you, Jamie.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.